Is your supply chain just a cost engine, or has it actually become a risk engine? For the longest time, the executive mindset was just firmly, stubbornly rooted in traditional cost optimization. We wanted everything faster, cheaper, more efficient, the whole shebang. But that hyper-narrow focus, it creates a massive blind spot. If your entire network is built solely to drive down costs, without any thought given to environmental resilience, you're not optimizing anymore. You are literally just accumulating massive compounding risk. Okay, let's really dive into this. To help us navigate our way out of this trap, we're going to be using the supply axis framework as our mentor and guide throughout this explainer. The interconnected nature of their approach is just a perfect representation of what we're talking about today. It's about leading organizations completely out of that corporate illusion. The one where sustainability is just about basic compliance or nice-sounding PR. Supply Axis actually provides the blueprint for true systemic transformation. Let's start with part 1, the old supply chain logic. And that leads us right into part 2, the system shock. To really understand this shock, we first have to recognize where we've been. Once upon a time in global business, procurement teams optimized strictly for the lowest price. Logistics optimized for the fastest routes. And sustainability, well, that lived completely isolated over in some separate corporate social responsibility silo. But we are facing a massive system shock right now where that old logic is fundamentally broken. The drivers disrupting operations aren't future predictions anymore. They are our new red alert reality. We're talking about extreme climate-driven supply disruptions, wild energy price volatility, and incredibly aggressive new environmental regulations. And on top of all that, you've got capital markets making strict ESG-driven investment decisions, and consumers demanding absolute transparency. The absolutely crucial takeaway here is that environmental sustainability is no longer an optional nice-to-have. It is a matter of operational survival. Moving on to part 3, revealing hidden Scope 3 emissions. This brings us to a core supply axis insight that totally shatters the old way of doing things. You see, a lot of companies resist change because they think, hey, we're doing enough. We recycle at headquarters, we're optimizing local costs, but they're looking in the wrong place entirely. The real battlefield is hidden deep within your supply chain. Take a look at this number, 80%. Just let that sink in for a second. Supply Axis identifies that up to 80% of a company's total carbon emissions sit hidden in Scope 3, meaning they're out there in your extended ecosystem. It's your suppliers, your transportation networks, your product life cycles. If you aren't actively managing Scope 3, you aren't actually managing your environmental impact at all. When you actually break down these impact zones, you see that traditional operations and your direct energy use are completely dwarfed by your suppliers, your logistics, and the product lifecycle itself. This footprint right here is the new KPI reshaping global business. Why? Because this specific footprint directly influences your corporate valuation, your insurance costs, and how attractive you are to investors. Make no mistake, your carbon footprint is now intrinsically linked to your financial footprint. So, how do we fix it? Part 4, 8 actions for transformation. Because supply chains are now climate systems, they require a completely systemic intervention. The Supply Axis framework outlines an 8-step action plan to totally rebuild your network for this new era, and it begins with 4 operational pivots. Action 1, measure everything. You simply cannot improve what you can't see, especially those hidden Scope 3 emissions we just talked about. Action 2 is sustainable sourcing. Supplier selection is now an environmental decision based on carbon transparency and renewable energy use, not just a pure cost decision. Action 3 is logistics reinvention, shifting to electric fleets and nearshoring to bridge cost reduction with carbon reduction. And Action 4 is energy optimization. This is about turning your factories and warehouses into smart, renewable energy hubs. Now let's look at Actions 5 and 6 and see how this mindset builds directly into the products themselves. The old linear model was, frankly, incredibly wasteful. Take, make, dispose. The new supplies mandate is the circular model. Reuse, repair, refurbish, recycle. In this transformation, products and packaging are redesigned from the ground up so that waste is no longer this dead-end, end-of-line output. Instead, waste actually becomes a resource loop. It's a fundamental shift in how we engineer value. To really cement that product redesign and circular economy we just discussed, we absolutely need Actions 7 and 8. These are the crucial systemic pivots that make this entire transformation permanent. Action 7 is digital supply chain intelligence, and Action 8 is governance and accountability. This means implementing real executive ownership, cross-functional alignment, and ensuring procurement targets are linked directly to ESG KPIs. Sustainability is no longer just a department you can silo away. It has to become your overarching governance system. I actually want to pause on Action 7 for a moment because, honestly, it's the glue that holds this whole thing together. Digital supply chain intelligence. Think of this as your digital ESG control tower. Scaling sustainability is literally impossible without data. We're talking about IoT tracking, live carbon dashboards, blockchain for absolute traceability, and real-time reporting. Without this layer of digitalization, all your grand sustainability goals, they remain completely theoretical. You need the cold, hard data to prove the transformation. And that brings us to our final section, Part 5, the Future Sustainable Network. To get to this highly optimized green future, executives have to face the ultimate reality of business risk versus immense reward. On one side, you have the financial danger of inaction. Organizations that fail to transform face compounding risks: carbon taxation, regulatory penalties, massive supply disruptions, and investor withdrawal. Bottom line, ignoring sustainability is financially dangerous. But on the other side, you have the immense competitive advantage of adopting the Supply Access Framework early. You gain lower operational costs, surging investor confidence, and massive market differentiation. Sustainability goes from being a constraint to becoming your greatest competitive weapon. When you fully commit to this transformation, this right here is the ultimate return on investment. You graduate from a fragile, purely cost-focused network to the new ecosystem. It's a living, intelligent, and autonomous supply chain. It's beautifully transparent, highly localized, fully automated, deeply carbon-aware, and incredibly resilient. This is the green, optimized flow that ensures your organization thrives no matter what global disruptions come your way. I'm going to leave you with this really powerful thought straight from the Supply Access Framework. Supply chains are no longer measured only by cost and speed. They are measured by resilience, transparency, and sustainability. Those who take action on these 8 steps are doing so much more than just adapting to a changing world. They are literally defining the next global standard. So I have to ask, if your supply chain is still engineered entirely around cost, what is it ultimately going to cost your future?